Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is for the Honeybee Stamps Rainbow Dreams video hop. So this is a mini release from Honeybee Stamps with lots of wonderful rainbow goodness. So you know I am all about that. So I'm using quite a bit of the products today. I did just want to show you that there is hot foil plates for this, but I won't be using them today. Today we're going to be creating a 2-for-1 card because you know I'm all about stretching my supplies and getting what I can out of what I have. So you will need two to do both cards and the die cutting, two A2 size card bases. So this is basically just an 8.5 by 11 sheet cut in half, and that's what I'm going to do all my die cutting on. And then you'll need another one to create the cards. That is 5.5 by 8. Yes? Yeah, that's the measurements. I'm good at math. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Really quickly, before we get too much further into the video, if you are hopping along or if you haven't hopped along, there are two $25 gift cards that will be given away to the commenters along the hop. So I would recommend that you do that. Plus, all these wonderful people are endlessly talented and you wouldn't want to miss out on any of that. So because I typically don't keep a lot of colored cardstock on hand, just the colors I use quite a bit, I'm going to be using white cardstock to show you really can make this with the things that you have in your craft room. So I did all my die cutting, and I did just want to show you here that this is the leftovers of my die cuts. And so you could use these as negative space landscape cards and just trim them in half, or you could cut them out of acetate and use them as stencils. That would be really pretty too. So there's a bunch of different things you can do. I am going to be copic coloring all of my die cuts. You do not have to do this. You can use Distress inks. Ink blending would be way faster than what I'm doing here with Copic markers, but Copic markers is kind of my go-to, and that is the blend that I like the best for really bright colors. And so that is what I am using. Here I've picked the long rays of the sun to go with a darkish yellow, brightish orange color. And I did the flicking motion to the inside of the sun. I'm going to go in and color the little rays with a mid-tone yellow. This is a Y08. And also be blending out that orange in the circle portion at the same time. And then I'm going to fill in the center with a Y02, which is my lightest yellow. And I'm just going to take that all the way out to the edges so everything kind of blends in together. I was super happy with the way that that looked. And then after the sun, I'm going to move on to the hearts. I think I told you guys in a more recent video that I have been falling down on the refilling of my Copic markers. And this is this video was a great way to show me which ones really needed to be re-inked. So I did them two different ways. I did a dark, a medium, and then like a light-ish, and then I did a medium, a light, and a lighter. Ultimately, I'm going to be honest with you, I liked the darker ones better, and this certainly is not the only way you could have colored these hearts. This was just kind of like the quick, easy way, and I knew I had a lot of coloring ahead of me, but you can start to see how like some of the colors aren't really blending very well, and you're really going to see it with this R32 here. Because I need to re-ink my marker. And eventually I am going to do that, and then I'll come back to these these hearts. So just don't be like me. Stay on top of your re-inking, because I did not. Also of note, I'm working on a piece of scrapbook paper here. Scrapbook paper. Scrap paper? Did I say scrapbook? Betcha I did. Yeah, it's just a piece of copy paper so that I can keep my work surface without all these little coloring marks on it. So coloring the clouds, there's two different ways you can do it. You can, well, there's more than two, but I'm going to show you two. You can kind of outline the whole thing with like a medium blue and then use a light and a lighter blue to blend that out, just so there's a little bit of color on the outline. I knew that I was going to put my cards on a white background for more of a clean and simple look. And plus it really will let that rainbow kind of stand out, which I am totally here for. And so I wanted there to be a little bit of color in the clouds. The one that I preferred, which is the way that I colored all 3 of the other clouds, is to do the same idea, but I didn't outline the whole thing. I just kind of outlined the curved edge, and then I did just like a line or 2 at the bottom, and then I blended those out, and I just liked those better. It didn't seem as much of an outline, and it seemed like it was more intentional color or shading. Say that 3 times fast. But so this is the one that I went with for the other 3 clouds because it's the one that I preferred, but you could use either or. It's not like I threw that first cloud away. I didn't. I used it. It's on the, what card did it end up on? It's on the monochromatic one. Yes, it is. So you'll see that at a later date. I'm certainly not going to just pitch it because I didn't love the way that it was colored. I liked it. It was fine. So yeah, this release, they're calling it a mini release, but I am old enough in the stamping world that I remember when this was a regular size release for a company. But these are so fun. I am normally not a die cut person. You guys know that. And there is 2 stamp sets. I'm using both of them in this one. There's one for sentiments, and then there's one that's the actual like rainbow, it's called Rainbow Dreams, which is also the name of the release, is the stamp set. And it's got a lot of really fun images in it. There's a star one in here. It's like a little, how do I want to describe it? Like a little shoot, like a star trail. That would be like a trail of stars. I cannot wait to use that one in a night scene. We will see that again. I promise you that. Because it's so cute. And then the sentiments are the look for the rainbows. They just have a lot of really wonderful, there's birthday, there's encouragement, there's get well. I'm going to use one of those tonight. And then there is a little bit of lyrics to You Are My Sunshine in here, which I totally love. That is Caitlin's theme to her nursery, and that is also the song that my grandmother used to sing all the time. Oh, I'm getting a little teary. Did I hit you in different ways, I guess. Anyway, moving on. So for the coloring, for the rainbow, I did add a little bit more shading toward the bottom and then around the underneath of the loop. If you had seen my other video recently where I had done a rainbow, I just think it gives it a little bit more dimension, but that certainly is not something that you have to do. And then also when I did the die cutting, I cut out the small and the large rainbows, which that's the little thin pieces you see, and that's kind of like the in-between pieces. And I colored those too because I wanted all of my colors of the rainbow represented, and then I added some too. I threw in some teal in there. I don't care, it's my card, I do what I want. And so that's what you see here, this little piece. For the little pieces, I really just used 2 colors. I colored it in the lightest color or my main color. And then I did add some shading again at the bottom of, are they legs? What are they? The rainbow, the end of the rainbow, the end and the beginning of the rainbow, the end, whatever they are. I added some shading there, and then of course around the inside of the arch as well. When I first started doing it, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I was like, nah, I can't just leave it one color because I got a real problem. That's my problem. That's not your problem. If you are perfectly happy with the way it looks one color, you do you. There's Nathan's little finger asking me what I'm doing because even he knows his mother is crazy, but it's fine. He loves me anyway. So yeah, and you can see here with this orange marker, I need to re-ink that bad boy too. It's a epidemic in my house. Speaking of pandemics in my house, so here I'm going to speed this up. So on a personal note, first things first, my husband told me my stories are boring. So probably because I don't live a life anymore. well, that's not true. I don't live a life outside of my house anymore. And so all my stories are about my kids. And I always feel like I'm crazy busy, but really I'm just balancing my children's schedules and my own schedule. And so it just seems like it's wild all the time, but nothing interesting is happening. So I think it's affecting story time. And while some of you are probably like, well, it wasn't very nice of your husband to tell me that. Nah. I'd rather have him tell me. I would rather have somebody I love tell me than not know. So in our household, part of the reason it's been so crazy busy is because for the last 30 days, somebody in our house has been sick at some point. We had eye infection, we had colds, we had fevers, and then we had COVID. So right now, as it stands in our household, Eric started with symptoms. And then Saturday night, this is the worst thing ever. It's so terrible. So Friday night, his only symptom was a headache. So we had no idea that was even, related, because we had been working on getting the the house ready for Nathan's party. And he had been outside and sweating and everything else. So we just assumed it was him being dehydrated. Didn't think anything of it. Saturday, we had Peanut's party. So all of our closest loved ones over to visit. And then Saturday night, he started getting a little bit more congested. And I was like, you need to take a test because we need to know for sure. And sure enough, the home test came up positive. And then we ended up getting an email from his work, which is where we believe that he got it, that another guy that he worked with had it. They had recently gone somewhere together and traveled in the same car. So we're pretty sure that that's where it kind of started from. So then for the next 3 or 4 days, he slept on the couch. It was longer than that. His symptoms were for 6 days. He slept on the couch and we have to actually talk about the card now. This is important stuff. So here I have a sheet that is the same size, that 5.5 by 8, and I'm finding the middle, which is 4.25. I'm drawing a line there so that I will know after I put all of my parts on, where to cut at. So I'm just going to assemble my rainbow in rainbow color order, glue these down flat, and then I'm going to try to center them. I didn't get it perfect, but I'm not perfect, so it's fine. I tried to center them so that the center of the arch was in the middle. It was close enough for government work. So then the next 6 days he slept on the couch. I did my best to be the person who solely took care of Caitlin so that he wasn't around, her. And obviously Peanut's a little bit older, so that's a little bit easier to kind of keep him away. And then so we were good. We were cleared. He went back to work, and then he went back to work on a Wednesday, and then Wednesday when I took Caitlin to daycare, because we were outside of the window or whatever, and nobody had any symptoms. Nathan and I both tested negative. I did not test Caitlin because she's 6 months old. And so when I went to pick her up from daycare, she had pink eye. Now, that's pretty common at daycares, but I was like, hey, is she the only one who has it? And she was like, yeah, and it just, she woke up from her nap that way, so it's only been, the last 2 hours. And it was pretty clearly, she had, the greenish discharge from her eye. It was very pink and irritated, very swollen. Poor little baby. It looked terrible. So then, obviously, I called the on-call pediatrician, and I'm sure some people are probably like, that's crazy. I'm sure some people in my family thought I was a little bit crazy, but in doing my own research, pink eye is often a sign in small children of another type of infection, and it can be a symptom of COVID. So I called the on-call. She had no fever, she had no cough, she had no congestion, none of that. She just had the pink eye. And so, they were like, nah, probably not, but, you should call in the morning to bring her in. So I'm like, okay. Then the next morning, they actually called me, And they were like, we can just call her in drops. You don't necessarily need to bring her in. And I was like, okay. And then Eric was like, hey, we should probably take her in. And he was right. So I took her in. They checked out her eye. They determined that not only did she have pink eye, but she also had an infection of her eyelid. And then they COVID tested her to the card. So here my Fiskars trimmer has the wire in it. So I just lined that up with the pencil line that I drew. And now we have 2 cards to work with all these beautiful die cuts. Another thing that they have in the stamp set or in the die set, depending upon which one you're interested in or if you're interested in both of them. So that's why I made 2 of the same, quote unquote, same card, but I styled them differently. So for this one, I'm going to use the stamps, and I'm going to be doing just tone on tone stamping. There's stamps for every level of rainbow, but I didn't use the stamps for every level of rainbow. I hope that makes sense. So I used the Candied Apple. These are all oxides because oxides stamp beautifully and they match really well. So I used Candied Apple, I used Peacock Feathers, and I used Wilted Violet for the stamping. So anyway, that was Thursday. Wednesday, she got the pink eye. Thursday, I took her in. Friday morning, they called me and the doctor was like, listen, I am shocked because I thought there was no way that she had it, but she tested positive for COVID. So we've basically been in lockdown. And so far, thank God, nobody else in our family has shown any symptoms of COVID after Peanut's party. Horrifying, just absolutely horrifying. And, all of our families, like there's no way you could have known. And actually Eric's parents had just had COVID like 2 weeks prior to that. So they were not exposed. Back to the card. Here, I wanted to use the white cutouts to decorate this half of the rainbow, but there are not detail pieces for these 2 smaller layers, but I wanted it to be matchy-matchy, and you guys know I have a problem with that. So I actually used unicorn pigment ink because it's going to show the white on top of the colors. Now you could heat emboss this so that it would be bright white. I chose not to just because I didn't want to have to worry about scooping out all of the embossing from like the different layers where they were glued together. But if you did this part before you glued them all together, you probably could do that. And now I'm just going to move on to doing the white die cuts, gluing those on. And again, you certainly could style these any ways that you wanted to. I was just, again, trying to go with that clean and simple look that is more my style and that I prefer. So anyway, so they called and he was like shocked that she had it because she had really no other symptoms. And so then we just, battened down the hatches and stayed in the house. Nathan and I took another test, both of us. We're still negative. Eric obviously already had it and gotten over it. So, we'll see how it goes. They told us, from 5 days from when she stops having symptoms, that is when we can go out and about in the world. Even though we are all vaccinated, that's the timeline that they gave us. And so that's what we're doing. We're, following the rules to the best of our ability. Here, I'm going to use these other parts of the dies, that were left over to do the tone on tone for the card on the left where I did the stamping. I just thought it would be nice, to add some interest, to have some alternating textures. So part of it is flat with the stamping and then part of it is raised. And I did just color them the same color of the lightest color. This little dot pattern is actually meant for the teal arch. But because I was using such a small piece, I was able to make the dots work for the blue and I was happy with my result. So after that's done, I'm going to stamp the sentiments and then we're going to get into building the card. The one sentiment, and I totally love it. I will probably use it so much you'll get so sick of seeing it. It says rainbow is my favorite color. And that's accurate. Like blue is my boyfriend. Don't get me wrong. I love blue. But I also love a rainbow. I do. I cannot deny it. So these are just super fun. One thing that I did want to mention in the card builder set, that is the only one that you need like the sun that I used. Oh, here, this is the little trick that I used to find the correct dies. I just flip my stamp set over and kind of try to line them up with the dies until I find the one that I need. When there's a lot of dies like that, I get real easily confused. But so the card builder actually has a rainbow card base that it will cut for you, which I really like. And I think that would be super fun to do, to send a shape card if you're into that. But really the only part that I used off of it is the sun. The rest of it, the hearts and the clouds, I did use because I had them available to me, and that meant I didn't have to do as much die cutting. But those same style is included in the, what is it? Stop it now, Kelly. Is included in the Rainbow Dreams. It's just on a different scale, but it's the same style of clouds and hearts. So yeah. For as far as the putting it together, I glued the sundown flat. I glued the first cloud, like the cloud that's in the background, down flat, one of the hearts, and then I popped up the sentiments on foam. And then the first, like the top layer of cloud and the top layer heart, I also popped up on foam. Except for, I popped up the rainbow. But I did not pop up the is my favorite color portion of that sentiment. But yeah, so that's what's been going on in our household, and it has been a little bit wild, trying to work from home, and trying to make sure that Eric can still do the things that he needs to do. We were fortunate that this particular weekend was a 3-day weekend because of Memorial Day. So he was already off that day, so I was able to get some work done over the weekend while he was home. So that way, hopefully, when I'm, working on things or whatever this week, I will have a couple of things. I will have a couple of things in the hopper that I can pull from to get things up. But I don't think that I have anything due necessarily, which is good for me. So that first card is done, and like I said, I'm going to do this one the same way. Because this video is longer, I'm not going to have you watch the entire thing again, because I did the exact same thing that you just watched. Once this part was done, and everything was all together, and for the most part my cards are done, you know that I can't leave anything without shimmer. Again, if shimmer, shine, glitter's not your thing, that's cool. It's a pretty card on its own. Skip this step. But I'm not gonna, because I like it. I like it a lot. So I put clear glitters on the sun, on the hearts, on the curved portion of the clouds, also on the rainbows. Not gonna pretend like I didn't. Of course I did. All those pretty colors. Definitely put some shimmers on there. And then to take it up even further, I went and got my Stardust Stickles, and then I'm going to use that in all of the edges of the rainbows, like where they all meet. And then I also used it to outline the hearts. So it's just like a little extra added glitter. And I was really happy with the way that it looked. And so that's it. That's both cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me. You will head over to my girlfriend, Lydia Fiedler, who's endlessly talented and wonderfully funny and just the best personality. She is next on the hop. The whole list will be linked below, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.